So I was asked to do this, and I don't have a large repertoire of stories, so I'm going to tell a story that you probably already know. If you don't know it, that'll be new. And if you do know it, just, be quiet. It's a story about me. In 1956, I got the first royalty check that wasn't for $11. It was for $5,000. And I had always wanted to go to Europe. I'd never been out of the country at all. I'm from New York, and I moved to LA in '49. Anyway, with 5,000 bucks, the dollar went a great long way in those days. And I had married my first wife at that time, and we took off for Europe, and the check was actually from a song called Black Denim Trousers and Motorcycle Boots. So we flew to Copenhagen, and we went, it was amazing, for me. I'd never been, other than New York and LA, I'd never been anywhere. And went to Amsterdam and Brussels and Paris and London and Wales and Ireland. And the dollar was a major currency in those days, especially in Europe. So we were gone for like 3 or 4 months. And when we got to Paris, there was a big sign on the street that Edith Piaf was playing at l'Olympia Music Hall. And I had heard that she had done a record in French of Black Denim Trousers and Motorcycle Boots. So we went to l'Olympia, and sure enough, she introduced the song there. It's called L'Homme à la Moto, the man on the motor scooter. And it actually was, by her own attesting, the biggest selling single that she ever had. And it's on a lot of her albums, a lot of the collections. So that was, incredible. And I went back to see her, and I thought she had a terrible cold. I didn't realize that she was doing a lot of coke. But I was young. Anyway, we left there, and I drove through France and then started into Italy, which I loved, and we took the train from Venice. By the way, in Venice, we stayed at a pension, including 3 meals a day. It was $2 for 2 people. It was more expensive in Rome. It was $4. So you see why we could travel for all that time in Europe. And then I had originally had a ticket on a Greek ship called the Olympic. And before I left for Europe, somebody told me that they could get me on a better ship. And so I swapped my tickets in. They said, "You'll never forget it. It's really fabulous." It was called the Andrea Doria. And it was great. I actually had a little trophy. I was ping pong champion cabin class. And at a certain point, Getting close to New York, unfortunately, a ship called the Stockholm ran into us, full speed, amidships, and about between 50 and 60 people died. It was nighttime, it was dark, we were holding onto a rail on the upper deck, the open deck where the swimming pool was. Eventually, after about 4 hours, we slid down to the low end, and we got down a Jacob's ladder that was swinging over a broken lifeboat. It was an Andrea Doria lifeboat. And once we got a little bit away from the suction and everything as the boat was sinking, or the ship, I should say, we saw the lights come up on this big ship called the Ile-de-France. And we wanted to go there, but we couldn't because the rudder was broken. And so we were eventually picked up by a boat we almost collided with in the lifeboat called the Cape Ann. It was a freighter. And we got onto the freighter, and the next morning, after we left the site and where the ship, the Andrea Doria, was going down, I wanted to call my partner, Jerry Lieber, because we were meeting in New York. We both lived in LA at that time. And I sent a wire, and you had to pay cash for a wire in those days, in spite of the fact that it was a tragic thing and everything. But I had a few lira left, and so I sent a wire saying we were okay. Meanwhile, Jerry was watching this in a hotel room while he had a martini and was worrying whether I was going to make it or not. At any rate, when we came into New York Harbor and I came down the gangplank, Jerry came running up to me and he said, "Mike, we got a smash hit." I said, "You're kidding." He said, "No, Hound Dog." I said, "Big Mama Thornton?" He said, "No, some white kid named Elvis Presley." And that is how I heard about Elvis Presley, and also that he'd recorded our song.